Greetings, class. Welcome to another session here of tree diagramming practice. We're going to work on the homework that you had for last week. I want to hopefully get that done and like to do one more week of this before we give the exam. So let's begin with this first one here. Again, I'm going to walk through this. I'm sorry you're not here to take a look at it. If you do have questions, please do ask, and we will hopefully be able to answer your questions. I'm going to begin with this sentence here, which is the first one on our list. Dana took the dog to the vet because he was 6. He being the dog, not Dana. All right, we're going to begin by starting at the top, as we always do. We're going to start with drawing some of our lines. We're going to have one for noun verbs and one noun phrases and one for verb phrases. Over here we're going to have a noun phrase, and over here we're going to have a verb phrase. Again, before, as I said, try to keep these at the same level so that everything is a little easier to understand. I'm going to come down here to look at the bottom, and we're going to see right here is the main verb in the sentence, so that's where the cutoff is going to be when we go to break down the sentence. That means that all this stuff here is going to all fit into the main verb somehow. Okay, and we're going to have to try to figure that out. The noun phrase is only going to be going here. So as we go to look at this, we're going to come down here, and we're just going to have a noun. It's the only thing we're going to have here. It's going to be just a noun, and that's going to fit right there. So that's pretty easy to do. When we're done from here, we're just dropping down another line all the way down to the noun. And that's all we do for that. Now we've got a verb here. That's the main verb. So we're going to have to start by drawing a line over to here. Try to keep it rather high since it's going to be breaking down into other things. From here we'll have our main verb phrase. You'll note it's only one element, so we're just going to draw one element down, and that's going to become our main verb. And from there we simply walk down to the rest, to the verb took. Now the dog, as you know, the dog is a noun phrase, so off of here we're going to have to create another noun phrase, or a noun phrase. So maybe we'll come to here and put in the word noun phrase, and we've got two elements in there. Let's try to move this up here again. Try to keep them balanced. There we go. And from here we've got two parts. Okay, two parts that we want to deal with here. One of them is the article, which is basically a determiner. Whoops, it'd be good if I could spell. And one is just a noun. So let's just move these into place. And let's draw some lines for these so that we have the dog, which is the determiner, and dog, which is the noun for this noun phrase. And then we have to the vet. Now, to the vet is going to be a prepositional phrase, but it's also describing where we take. So this is going to be an adverb phrase. So we're going to have an adverb phrase here. Okay, it's not going to work. It's going to be an ADV, adverb phrase, and off of here we need to create a preposition. Then we're going to come down. We're going to create a preposition. Whoops, let's undo that. Create a preposition, prepositional phrase, I guess I should say, and then off of that we will create the, let's make this the preposition and the noun phrase. Okay, so we've got a preposition, and the preposition of course is to, and then we have a noun phrase. The noun phrase is the vet. Alright, so let's run this down. You've got your preposition to, and you've got off of here, you've got two pieces. Alright, you've got the, and you've got vet. And of course, the is a determiner, and vet is going to be the noun phrase. Where am I going here? Is the noun that goes with this, right? There's no NH. We'll put these into place here. Everything looks kind of even out if we can do that. Alrighty. And then we run our lines down to those two pieces. Last thing we have here is because He was sick, and this is also an adverb, but this is not an adverb phrase. This is going to be an adverb clause. So this is an adverb clause, okay? And we have our subordinator. We have our subordinator and our main sentence off of here. So we're going to have our subordinator, and then we're going to have a noun sentence. Okay, so we're going to have our sub. Just call that a subordinator, and we're going to have a sentence, which I have been spelling S-E-N. Typically, you can just call it, write it up as an S. Okay, from here again, we're going to have a noun phrase and a verb phrase, right? Just like before. This can just go straight down. From here, of course, we have a noun phrase and a verb phrase, right? And your noun phrase is he. Pretty easy, right? We've got he, and then we have a verb phrase. And of course, the verb phrase means I'm going to have a main verb phrase and then a main verb. So, over here, we're going to have, whoops, let's see here, back that up. And let's put in a main verb. Okay, drag this up a tad. Okay, and then off of the main verb, of course, we just run down to the verb. Off of here also, we have an adjective. Actually, it would be an adverb, and we'll just call it an adverb here. I could call it an adverb phrase and then go down to an adverb, but since I only have one, we're just going to make it an adverb. Okay, and then we go down to there. And that's how the first one looks. Hope you don't have too many problems with this. If you do have questions, kindly let me know. Let's move on to the next one. And just move these together a bit. And here's what the next one looks like. The joy of the Lord is my strength. We're going to start at the top with a big old S or sentence, and we're going to draw our two lines. Because we're going to need, two lines for this because we're doing a noun phrase and a verb phrase. Always having a noun phrase and a verb phrase, right, folks? That's what you always have to have at the beginning. All right, now that I'm here, I'm looking for the main verb. And you'll note the main verb is right here, is. So the joy of the Lord is all going to be on one side, and the main verb, that's going to be my cutoff, okay? So, since I know that to be the case, I am going to put my main verb phrase somewhere around here, right? So that I can get to a main verb phrase, because there's really not much with it. Let's go do the noun phrase, and we have the joy of the Lord. What is of? Of is a preposition. And since it's a preposition, I know I'm going to have an adjective phrase here. The joy of the Lord. What joy? Oh, the joy. The Lord's joy. The joy of the Lord. Okay, so I know that's going to be an adjective, but it's also a preposition. So from here, I'm going to have three things. I'm going to have a determiner, I'm going to have a noun, and I'm going to have an adjective phrase, or a preposition that's acting like an adjective. Okay, so here I put in a determiner, and then I put in a noun, and then I put in an adjective phrase. An adjective phrase. Let's line these up. Whoops. Okay, let's move this to its proper location. There we go. Sorry about the confusion there, folks. And put that up there. These two are, of course, going to come straight down. The adjective phrase needs to become a preposition first. So we need to make that a preposition, and then we can bring those down. Okay, we've got things like, you got your determiner, you have your noun, you've got then off of here a preposition and a noun phrase. So we put in the preposition and we put in the noun phrase. Whoops, my bad. What did I do? We put in the noun phrase, and then let's just put those in their proper place. And we can draw some lines here. At least actually we can just draw of, and then off of here we have a determiner and a noun. So we put in the determiner and the noun, put those in their proper place. like so, and then we run those down, the Lord. Okay, so all that fits on the noun phrase side. Off of main verb phrase, you know that we have main verb. So we've got our main verb, and that's pretty much done with that. Now we can just run a line down to is. And then we have my strength. My strength is a noun, so off of here we're going to have a noun phrase. Okay, and that noun phrase is going to have two parts. It's going to have my and strength, strength being the noun out of the part of this. My is going to be a determiner. Whoops. And then we have a noun. Yeah, let's put those into place. And then we can just run lines down. My strength. And that's how the second one looks. Hope y'all are doing okay with this. Any questions, please let me know. That's how that one would look. Again, if you have any questions, back it up, play it again. If not, you can always come and email me or Skype me to have any questions. Let's move on to the next one. The Brunswick police chased a racing car over the U.S. border. We always start at the beginning, so let's start at the top with a big old S for a sentence, or you can have SEN if you like. Draw your two sides. You're going to have a noun phrase, and you're going to have a verb phrase. So let's put those up there right away. Noun phrase, whoops. Noun phrase and verb phrase. And then we got to decide what's going on here from at the bottom. Where's the main verb? The New Brunswick police chased. There's your main verb. So we now know that all of this is going to go right in here somewhere. It's going to fit inside the main verb. So that's what we're going to want to try to set up. This other piece here should be rather easy. The New Brunswick police. Police being the noun. We have a determiner, and inside we have two adjectives. So this is going to be basically 5 lines here, right? 4 lines. The New Brunswick and police. They're all going to fit inside here. So we can do that rather easily. Determiner, adjective, adjective, and then noun, right? And of course these all need to be fit in here so that they fit nice and pretty. There it is. Let's move this over a tad since it's going to be a little tight in there. And there. And then we just run those 4 lines down. That's it. That's all we got for this. The New Brunswick and then police. Okay, that one was rather easy, I think. Didn't have much of a challenge there with that, actually. So then we have the verb chased. Okay, so I'm going to try to drag this over here. I want to get it right about over where I want it to be here. And we're going to have a main verb phrase. And there's really not much more to this. And drop down to a main verb. And then just drop her down all the way to chased. And that's that. Really not much more to go on with this one. All right. A racing car. A racing car. Car being a noun phrase. We'll put in a noun phrase here because car is a noun. So we're going to put in a noun phrase. I have 3 pieces to this noun phrase, right? I have a determiner, I have an adjective, and I have the noun. So those 3 will go here. Oops. Sorry about that, folks. So we put in a determiner, an adjective, and a noun. Put all those in place here. Let's pull them up so they're a little prettier. Actually, let's try to balance this out here by putting them over here in this row here. All right, so these all go this way. Ooh, you moved. You weren't supposed to move. Stay up there. There we go. And then from here, we can draw lines down to A, and then racing, and then car. Okay, so those all fit. Now, next thing I need to do is use this thing. Over the U.S. border. What's this describing? Is it describing a noun, car, or is it describing the verb, chased? I think it's describing the verb chased as to where is it chasing it. So here I'm going to have an adverb phrase. Of course, although it's an adverb phrase, it's also a preposition. So we've got to add the prepositional phrase as well so that we can recognize both its form, which is a prepositional phrase, and its function, which is an adverbial phrase. Okay? So from here now, we got to break down the prepositional phrase into a preposition and a noun phrase. The preposition, of course, is rather easy. That's over. The noun phrase has several parts to it. So let's try to line these up here real quick. Okay, now your preposition is over, and then you've got a noun phrase, which is the, U.S., and border. Okay, so the, of course, is a determiner. U.S. is an adjective, and border is the noun. We just line all these up nice and pretty. As long as I can grab that one there. There we go. Pull that one in. And we just finished drawing our lines, and we're done with this one. The U.S. border. Is making sense to everybody? Anybody have questions regarding this one? Again, not too difficult to do. Now we're going to move on to the more difficult ones, I believe. People do not go to the library anymore. Actually, this one is rather easy as well. Again, we start out like we always do. We start out with a big old S. We put in our markers here at the beginning here, your noun phrase and your verb phrase. Again, rather easy. Noun phrase and then a verb phrase. Let's go back and draw here. Let's take a look here. Where's the main verb? Do not go. That's the main verb. So under the noun phrase, you don't have much because all of this is going to be shooting up to the verb phrase here. Everything else is on the noun phrase, which is just one word. Okay, most everything goes into the other one. So from here, we draw a line down to basically just a noun, right? And then we draw down. We're done with that. That was easy. Now in the main verb, we have do not go. We've got 3 parts, and 2 of them don't belong in the main verb. So let's draw a line over to here. Okay. And right here we have to put in the main verb phrase. Whoops. But the main verb phrase now has 2 parts. It has the auxiliary and the main verb. Okay. All right, so this is something we don't have too often. We have an auxiliary, and then we have a main verb. And that's what we have with this one because we've got 2 parts here. Now inside the auxiliary, we have do and we have not. So I think we could literally put in 2 parts here, one being negative and one being do, the periphrastic do. So we can just put a do here, and we can put in a negative. Yeah, we might as well make it all lowercase, negative. And those both go inside the auxiliary, right? We have do and we have negative. They both go together there. They're all part of that. The main verb, what am I doing? Got do and negative. Let's pull these out to the right places here, right? And they're both inside the auxiliary. And then you've got the main verb, which happens to be go. Okay? And then to the library. Do not go where? Okay, well, this is where they're going, right? They do not go to the library. Go. Okay, so this is going to be an adverb phrase, right? To the library. So we add in here an adverb phrase. Oops, let's make it a capital P. But this is also a preposition. So we're going to add a prepositional phrase here. And off of the prepositional phrase, we've got our preposition. And we have the noun phrase that goes with it. Preposition, of course, is to, and the, what am I doing here? The noun phrase is the library. So the noun phrase has two parts to it. So let's add our lines here, to, and then the noun phrase is basically a determiner and a noun. And then, of course, we have to do the question of what do we do with that thing anymore. Anymore is a sentence modifier, so it's going to be an adverb phrase, and it's describing the whole sentence. The library. So off of here now, we're going to have another adverb. Okay, and just an adverb, and that goes straight down to anymore. We okay with this, folks? Did I do this okay? I think I did. Yeah, you belong up a little higher. Look at that. All right. Again, I don't think there was much of a difficulty with this. If you do have questions about it, please ask. For the breakdown, we can talk to you via Skype or via email. Okay, let's move on to the next one. The invention of the internet has changed the way people get information. This is going to be a more difficult one to break down. So, let's begin at the top. We've got a sentence here at the top. We, of course, have our noun phrase and then a verb phrase. And so we begin up here with a noun phrase, and over here we got to put in a verb phrase. Now, the invention of the internet has changed. There's your main verb. So all this to the left here, all of this part is going to go up to the noun phrase. And the remaining part is going to go the other way. So, the invention of the internet. I've got three pieces here. I have a determiner, I have a noun, and I have an adjective. Okay? And that adjective is actually an adjective phrase that's actually a preposition. So we've got a determiner and a noun. No, I did it wrong again. A noun, not a B. A noun, that's better. And then I'm going to have an adjective. And the adjective, A-D-J-P, an adjective phrase, is actually a preposition. We're going to come down here and call that a prepositional phrase. Okay, let's draw some lines, shall we? The invention, right? Now from here I've got of, and then a noun phrase. Okay, so we've got a preposition, and then I have a noun phrase. The noun phrase, of course, is going to be a determiner and a noun, right? So I've got a determiner and a noun. No, I did it again. A noun, there we go. Let's move all this stuff to where it belongs. Try to keep everything balanced, as I said before. Keep everything nice and neat. Okay. Noun and a determiner, if I can grab it. There we go. Alright, so now let's draw some lines down so that we got this. Of, the, and then internet. And then we move on to the verb phrase. Now the verb phrase, of course, has got two parts. So let's try to balance this out. And we're going to have a main verb phrase here, which will break off into two parts. You've got your auxiliary and your main verb. Okay, now in your auxiliary this time, you're going to have the have piece of this. Okay, and that just runs straight down. Your auxiliary is have. Now I could put in here, I guess, and why don't I? And just run this all the way down. Let's add in here just have, because it's a perfect. And then changed, right? So that's how these all work. Again, let's line these up so they look nice and pretty. Don't want to make things too difficult. When you go to draw these, of course, you're doing them on paper, so it's a little more difficult to line these up after the fact, so please make sure that you try to line them up properly, okay? The way people get information. The way is a noun, okay? I've got the way and then people. Noun, noun. People get information. What do we have here? We have subject and verb and then a noun. This is a clause. What happened here? Right here, we were supposed to have a word, that. The way that people get information. Okay? That people get information is actually describing way. You know, if I say the way, what way? Oh, the way people get information way. Oh, that way. Okay, now I understand. So this is an adjective clause that has been reduced. They got rid of the marker. So we're going to have to pretend that it's there. First thing we'll do, of course, is put in the noun phrase for the way. The way has two parts. We've got marker and then a noun. All right, so we have a determiner, not a marker, a determiner and a noun. Okay? Let's move those up here. And we can draw some lines down for that. The and way, huh? So those all fit. Okay, and then we have an adjective clause here. We have an adjective clause that is actually a sentence. Let's just drop this down and draw a sentence. Okay, we have a that that's been hidden, so we should put that in there, but this adjective clause now has a noun phrase and a verb phrase. Of course, the noun phrase is one word, and the verb phrase is going to be the whole, it's going to be a verb and a noun that goes after it, right? So let's put this up here a little higher because we're going to need the space. Off of here, we're going to have just a noun, people, okay? And then we're going to have a main verb phrase in here, main verb phrase, and that's going to have to go off into a main verb. Okay, let's pull this up because we're going to need the space. Okay, and then off of there, we're going to have just the main verb. Okay, you see how that all fits in, I hope. Okay, and then off of here we have the word information. Information, of course, is a noun. So we're going to have over here, we're going to have another noun phrase. Noun phrase, and off of that we're just going to draw a line down to the noun. All right? So this one's a little more difficult, primarily because you have this thing right here, this adjective clause that becomes a sentence. And there's really no way to tell in there until you try to recreate it in your mind that there was a that in there, okay? Literally what I could do is I could add it in here and then cross it out. I'm just going to make it a little easier for you by not doing that. So that's how this is working out today. I'm sorry, in this example. All right, let's move on to the next one, which is, I don't know what page it is. Let's take a look at it, though. Don't ask me to review your homework because I cannot read French. Because I cannot read French, we know, is going to be a clause. It's going to be a separate part there that we're going to have to fill in as we go. Don't ask me. We're missing a subject, okay? I know I'm going to begin at the top with this, and I know I'm going to begin at the top with a noun clause and a verb clause, just the way they always open up, right? So I'm just going to put that in there. Even if I don't know what's happening yet, I know I can put this in, verb phrase, right? Now I need a subject. Well, I don't have one. It's basically put in here. It's the understood. And the reason why I know this is because you is the command. It's the unspoken subject. Okay? And that basically exists over here. Right? It's a command. So you is understood. All right? Which means don't ask is the main verb. So I'm going to come all the way over. I'm going to come over here and put in a main verb phrase. Okay? Okay, main verb phrase. And I'm going to run this down to don't ask. Do not ask. I got two parts here, do and not. So from here I'm going to have two pieces. All right? I'm going to have the auxiliary and I'm going to have the main verb. All right? And inside the auxiliary, I've got literally two pieces, do and not. And yes, I know they're put together here, but they're actually two separate things. We've got the paraphrastic do and then negative, which I put in before. I can put them in here, but I'm not going to. Okay, do not ask me. Well, what's me? Me is a noun phrase. So off of here, I need to put in a noun phrase. And why'd you go over there? Okay, let's put this here as a noun phrase. Oops, there we go. And then we can just run that down to me. Now, to review is an infinitive. And if you remember, an infinitive should be opened up into its original format. And I don't know exactly what it is, but this is the way I would say it. Don't ask me that I will review. Is probably what I would do. That I will review. Okay? So this is an adverb clause, and it's describing the verb ask, but it's been reduced to an infinitive. To an infinitive. So, what I need to do is I need to put in an adverb clause, which I'll put in right here. This is an adverb clause that becomes a sentence. And what am I doing here? I need a sentence. And then literally off of here, I can also put in, whoops, grab the wrong thing. There we go. A sentence, and then I can also put off of here the word that, which would be a relative, not a relative, a subordinator. What am I looking for? Here we are. So I can put in actually this is a relative core. Okay, but again, it doesn't exist in the real sentence, right? So I'm just putting this in here so that I can type in the word that. Okay? Try to get this a little smaller because it's too big. That's better. All right, that's going to be cut out though, right? And then off of here, okay, off of here I'm going to have a noun phrase, and a verb phrase, right? Just like I would normally, noun phrase and a verb phrase. Okay, and the noun phrase is going to be what? The noun phrase is going to be that. No, I'm sorry, it's going to be that I. So I'm going to have something here that says I, and I'm going to have something in here that says will review. Right, so I'm going to have I, again, which is not going to exist because we're going to cross it out. And then here I need a main verb phrase. Right, which is going to become two things. Let's pull this down a little. In fact, let's pull these two down, because I'm going to need them eventually, right? And I need some space because I need to put in another line here to get the auxiliary and the main verb. Okay, so we've got the auxiliary here and the main verb. And those get broken down to will and then review, right? Oops. All right. Right, all this fits in here. So now what happens is then we then take all this and essentially we cross it out. We cross that out and whoops, and we convert it to an infinitive. We convert it to an infinitive, to review. All right? All this work right here, okay, because we have an infinitive. And you're going to have to do that every single time. And then we have your homework, right? Don't ask that I review. Review what? Your homework. Okay, so we've got to put this in here so we can add a noun phrase. And the noun phrase is going to be broken down into a determiner and a noun, right? You've got, whoops, you've got a determiner, your, and then a noun, homework. Kind of odd, right? And then from there we draw to your and then homework. Because, another adverb clause, okay? So from here we need another adverb clause. And we're going to kind of basically set up the same thing. Adverb clause. And the adverb clause becomes what? Becomes a sentence. So we're going to have a sentence here. We're going to have a sentence here. And off of the adverb clause. And we're going to have a subordinator off of here, right? And your subordinator, of course, is... well, you're too big, aren't you? Let's minimize you a bit. And let's see here. The subordinator is going to be, we'll just call it a sub. We'll call it a subordinator. And that's going to be because. And from here, of course, we have noun phrase and a verb phrase. Remember, we're doing this every single time we got a sentence. We got a noun phrase and we got a verb phrase. Okay, let's put this up there nice and pretty. Okay, from here we get I, and from here I need a main verb phrase, right? Whoops. Main verb phrase. Off of the main verb phrase, I've got two pieces. I have a cannot and then read. So I've got an auxiliary and I have a main verb. Okay, so the auxiliary is two pieces again. We have can and we have not. Remember, one is negative and one is a modal. In fact, let me put those in here this time. I didn't put them in last time, but just because we're using modal here instead of the other one. So we've got a modal and we have a negative. It'll be kind of hard to fit in here, huh? Let's see if I can't make these a little smaller. Might help. We've got a modal and we've got a negative. Negative, right? And they both go down and become cannot. And then, of course, we have the main verb, which is read. And we don't need anything there. So we've got can and not and read. And then, of course, off of here we have another noun phrase, which is the word French. And that's how this puppy looks. Okay? Again, try to make it neater if possible. Sometimes it's a little more difficult to do. Zing, zing. Pull that over a little, huh? And again, you have any questions, please let me know. That's how that one looks. Take a look at the next one. The best thing to eat in the morning for breakfast is a nice hot plate of home fries. Boy, this is a very long sentence. Begin with an S here at the top. The best thing is a noun phrase, to eat. Uh-oh, what is that? You look at that, that's an infinitive, which means I need to break that down into its original form. I don't know exactly what it is, but I could probably say it is the best thing that I eat. And I have to then break that down into, or reduce that to an infinitive form. But I realize I'm going to have to do that. In the morning, for breakfast are both prepositional phrases. Not a problem with those. Main verb. Here's your main verb. Is. Okay. A nice hot plate of home fries. All that seems rather easy. Well, let's start with making our little marks here. And we start out with a noun phrase and the verb phrase. Okay. Now we've got the best thing. The best thing. 3 pieces, right? And then for. To eat. So I've got a breakdown here. I've got a determiner, an adjective, a noun, and another adjective, right? And that second adjective is going to be really long. I've got a determiner, an adjective, oops, a noun, and an adjective. The second one, of course, is a clause that's going to be reduced. Just try to move all these together here so things look a little nicer. Some of these I can run straight down, like the and best. Not a problem with those. Thing, straight down. Here we have a problem. To eat. To eat is actually, it's an adjective, but it's an infinitive, and so we're going to have to make it a sentence, right? We're going to have to make this a sentence in order to explain where we get it. And that's the real reason why we're doing that. So we're going to break this down into a noun phrase and a verb phrase. Anytime you get a sentence, you got to break it down to a noun phrase and a verb phrase. Even if the noun phrase no longer exists, as it does in this case. Okay, so we have an indivisible relative correlation. Where are we? Relative clause marker. I need a line. There we go. We're going to put that in here, even though it doesn't exist, right? We're going to put it in anyway. We're going to call this a rel core. And then we're going to try to make these a little smaller so that it'll fit in here. And whoops. There we go. I'm going to have a rel core, which is going to be that. Remember, it's that I eat. In fact, let's just write that down here. That I eat in the morning. Okay, and again, we don't want it to be that big because this is the stuff we're cutting away. Okay, let's put that right about here. Okay, and then from here, I and eat. So what do I need here? I need a main verb phrase that breaks down to a main verb. Okay. Main verb phrase that breaks down to a main verb that becomes eat, right? And you are here, and the rel core is here, and then all that gets cut out and becomes the infinitive. The infinitive to eat. Okay? That I eat in the morning, that's going to come off of here, right? In the morning as an adjective phrase, right? It's an adjective phrase, which is also a preposition, right? And from here we have a preposition and a noun phrase, preposition and a noun phrase. Okay. And then we're going to do the same thing. For breakfast. Again, for breakfast is another preposition, adjective phrase. I eat in the morning, right? So we're going to have another adjective phrase, which again will become a preposition. Let me pull this up a tad. Going to become a preposition, which is going to have, again, those two parts. You're going to have a preposition, and you're going to have a noun phrase. Okay, let's put these in their nice, pretty order. Okay, in, right, and this noun phrase is going to become two things. It's going to become a determiner and a noun. And then this is going to be your preposition for here, and then breakfast is just one word. Whew! And that's just half the sentence. All right? You see how all that works? The infinitives and the gerunds are the royal pain in the because you have to create them in order to destroy them so that you can determine where the infinitive comes from. Let's go on with the rest of the sentence. Okay, let's look at the rest of the sentence. I got to come over here and I got to put in a main verb phrase, which is your main verb is, and that's easy. That's a piece of cake. A nice hot plate. All one thing, and it is a noun. So what we're going to do here is create a noun phrase that has four parts, right? And those four parts are a nice plate, nice hot plate, all right? So what do we have in here? We have a determiner, an adjective, another adjective, and then a noun phrase. Okay, let's put these all in the right place. And just run them down. A. Can't get that to set nice. Nice. Hot. Doesn't like that spot. And then plate. Alright. There we go. Looks a little better. A nice hot plate of home fries. Nice hot plate of home fries. I need, believe it or not, I need another adjective here. Off of here. Oh, whoops, my bad. Control Z that. It needs to come off of here. Plate of what? Plate of home fries. So here I have an adjective phrase, which becomes a preposition. And off of this, I have a preposition and a noun phrase, right? So off of here, I have a preposition and a noun phrase, which actually includes two pieces. Home fries. Kind of odd, isn't it? Home fries. Okay, let's put all this in its place here. And let's draw some lines. Oops, I don't know how many lines to draw. Of home fries. All right. Whoa, I made a mistake here. Of home fries. Home, I'm assuming, is an adjective here, so I need to add the word adjective here, and then a noun. Cancel that again. Noun. There we go. And now I just need to put these in their proper place. Draw two more lines, and we're done with this one. We okay, kiddies, with this? Does this make sense to you? I certainly hope it does. I'm trying to walk through this as simply and provide as much explanation as I can. If you do have questions, as I said before, please take a gander at the email. Give me a call. Let me know what's going on. And I'll see if I can't try to help you. All right, let's start with this second to the last one that we have here. As typical, we start off with an S. We draw our two lines. Haven't even looked at the sentence yet. I don't even know what it says. But I do know that I've got a noun phrase and a verb phrase. At least let's hope so. Okay, we have the college hopes. There's a verb. To buy. To buy. That's an infinitive, which means I need to break it down into its other parts. iPads for all of the students when they graduate. That's another clause right there. So I've got two clauses in here besides the main sentence. The one clause is the infinitive, to buy. The other clause is when they graduate. That's the subordinator. That's going to be an adverb phrase, right? So, without any further ado, let's try to break this down. We have the college is your noun phrase. Noun phrase. So we have a determiner and a noun. Determiner and a noun. That one's rather easy. We have the word hopes. That's your main verb. So, let's try to fill these out here. And we got hopes all the way over here. So here we have your main verb phrase. From here we're going to go down to hopes, put in your main verb, and then just run that down to hopes. Right? This part was easy. Okay? To buy, hopes that they will buy. I'm thinking that's what it's going to be. Hopes something. Hopes something, which means this is a noun phrase. So we're going to run a line out here that says noun phrase. Noun, noun phrase, which is actually going to break down to a sentence. Okay? And because we have a sentence, what are we doing? Noun phrase, verb phrase. So we're going to have noun phrase and then a verb phrase. Okay, in fact, let's move this over because I fear we are going to run out of space if I don't. Okay. Hopes, right? What's this going to be? That they will buy. So I've got, let's put this down. That they will buy. And let's make this a little smaller because we're going to need to. We're going to run out of space if we don't. That's my goal. That they will buy. Which is going to be cut out and put into something else, right? So here I have they. And here I'm going to need what? I'm going to need a main verb phrase. And I'm going to need a main verb and an auxiliary. All right? These are all a little tight in here, so probably what I'll do is try to make these a little smaller too. Okay. Hopes that they will buy. Okay. Well, that's all that, right? Hopes that they will buy. Hopes something that they will buy. This is your subordinator. What goes here? Yes. And then from here, we need iPads, so we're going to need a line for this off of here, which will be a noun phrase. And that noun phrase is basically going to be just iPads. Remember, this all gets cut out, and it gets replaced with an infinitive. Okay, the infinitive to buy. To buy iPads. Oh my gosh. To buy iPads for all of the students. For all. Hopes to buy iPads. For here now I have an adverb phrase. For all is describing who you're buying for. They will buy for the students, right? So I have an adverb phrase, which is actually a preposition. Okay, which is, I'm going to run out of space here, folkies. Definitely going to run out of space here. Prepositional phrase, which becomes a preposition and a noun phrase. I've got a preposition. Did it again. I got a preposition, which is going to be for. I have a noun phrase. Noun phrase, which is going to be, move this over here. Boy, am I going to run out of space. All, and then off of here I have an adjective of the students. And this adjective phrase, whoops, let's make this a capital, is actually a preposition. So I got to do that again. Oops, control preposition. right? And that's of the students. And so here I have two other things. One is a preposition, and one is a noun phrase. Okay. And this is of. Oops. I'm going to pull this up a tad. Let's add a determiner and a noun. Determiner, oops. Determiner and a noun. Determiner and a noun. Kind of tight in there, folks. Sorry about that. I'm going to fit it all in here. Okay, when they graduate. To buy when they graduate. So where's this main verb? This main verb is here, which belongs to this verb phrase. So it's here that I want to put in this other adverb clause. Okay? And this adverb clause, of course, is going to become a what? It's going to become a sentence and a subordinator. So you've got a subordinator and you've got a sentence. Okay, this is definitely a more difficult thing to create here. Your subordinator is easy, it's just when. And then, of course, you have when they graduate, two things. It's actually rather easy because they're both one word. Your noun phrase is when they, and then graduate is the verb. So in here I have to have a verb phrase, and then below that I need a main verb phrase, and below that I need main verb. Okay, and so they just all need to be connected. And that's how that looks. Okay, rather messy, primarily because this piece here required all of this creation. Right, the infinitive required all of this creation. And that's just the way it is with infinitives. You get an infinitive, you're going to have to break things down. Okay, if you do have questions, please let me know. And let's move on to the last one. Here we go with the last one here. Of course, as typical, you begin by having a sentence, and you draw your lines out, and let's take a look here. We got a noun phrase, we've got a verb phrase, and let's take a look at our sentence here, shall we? The car I took from the parking lot. Hold on, we have the car. We have something in here that belongs here. It's probably the word which that belongs in the car. The car, which I took out from the parking lot, right? All that still belongs to it. We still haven't found the main verb. Here's the main verb, was. Okay, again, which means all this stuff is going to be hooked into your main verb. And everything before it is going to go with the noun phrase. So, you now know the noun phrase is going to have a whole bunch of stuff in it. Let's try to break that down. We have three things here that we're going to be doing. We're going to have a determiner, we're going to have a noun, and then we're going to have an adjective. And the adjective is going to be a sentence. So we've got a determiner, a sentence, and an adjective clause. Okay? Now let's take a look at those here real quick. Run some lines for the easy ones. The car. Now this is actually a sentence. A sentence. So this is a sentence. Okay. So what is the sentence? Well, you're going to have a noun phrase and a verb phrase, right? And the noun phrase is going to be I took the car, right? We're going to have to add the car in there. Verb phrase. Okay, so we've got I, right? And then for here, we're going to have a main verb phrase, right? So we're going to have a main verb phrase, and then we're going to have a main verb, and then we're going to connect those, right? And that's took, right? I took. And then we're going to have a noun phrase in here, which doesn't exist in the main sentence, because that's going to become that. I took, and here we have, we're just going to type it in as is, the car. Whoops. Okay. Make this smaller because it's really not there. Okay. I took, why do we have two of these? There's a typo, folks. Sorry about that. Right? I took the car. Okay, now this is going to get crossed out just to let you know. And it's going to become that. Okay? And then that is going to be sent here. Okay? And then, of course, it gets reduced. The whole thing gets taken out. That also gets taken out. Can't be helped because that's just the way people are. But that's where that comes from. The car that I took from the parking lot. Alright, I'm going to fix this a little. I'm going to pull it out because I need more space. There we go. Okay, the car that I took from the parking lot. This is where I took it from, right? I took the car from the parking lot. This is describing where I took it from. So this is now an adverb clause, adverb phrase. Right? It's an adverb phrase. Bear in mind, since it's an adverb phrase and it's got the preposition in it, it's also a prepositional phrase. Right? So from here we have a preposition and a noun phrase, right? So we've got a preposition, which is from, and we have a noun phrase, which is the parking lot. So we've got the parking lot. The parking lot, I guess. Let's draw some lines here. We got from. We've got lines here. The, which is a determiner. Oh, let's put that in first. Determiner and an adjective and a noun. There we go. Right? The parking lot. Now that's how that works. Okay? So, the car, that, where's that? Well, it was taken out. But originally it was there. I took the car from the parking lot. The car becomes that, right? That I took from the parking lot. And now I need the main verb. Let's move over to here. I've got the main verb, which means I need a main verb phrase. Whoops, sorry folks. Main verb phrase, which will become a main verb, and that's was. So we can draw these lines. Was a very expensive Mercedes. Piece of cake. All of this is a noun phrase. Right? So this is a noun phrase. Right? And that noun phrase has how many parts? A very expensive Mercedes. Okay, we have a determiner, a qualifier, a quantifier, an adjective, and a noun. Alright, so let's just put these all where they belong. A very expensive Mercedes. Draw our lines down and we're done here. It's an intensifier, it's not a qualifier. Expensive Mercedes. And that's it for these 10. I do hope this was helpful to you. Again, if you do have any questions, please email me, talk to me on Skype, give me a phone call. I do hope you have a nice day, and I will see you online, hopefully on Wednesday, possibly on Tuesday. I don't know, but we'll see. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.